Thank you for making the time to come and join us this afternoon. I'm going to hand over to the Labor Party President Nigel Harwood to outline the steps that the party has decided to take, and because of course they are absolutely necessary to ensure the safe environment for young people in the Labor Party and the Labour movement generally. Nigel.
Thank you.
Can you
certainly, there we are. Forward a bit, thank you. Look, I want to start by saying how seriously we are taking this matter. We understand we failed in our duty of care during the event, and we have failed in our duty of care in terms of support that we've offered since then. We are very, very distressed about this, and we want to apologise deeply to the 4 young people who have been so grievously treated, to their families who are obviously facing issues on this front, and also to the other young people who took part in the camp, who also had to face up to the fallout of what was a really difficult time. We apologise, and we are really, really upset about this. We are now moving forward. We have to deal with this. We have to deal with this seriously and put in place an environment which is safe for everybody in the party. And so we're setting in place a number of key measures designed to make sure that the Labour Party is a safe location for all people to operate. So the first thing we are doing is that we are suspending henceforth, until we are certain that they can be safe, young Labour events. We are not stopping them forever. We're going to make sure that subsequent to the review I'll talk about in a minute, those events can take place in a context where all young people of whatever age attending can be certain that their safety is guaranteed. We are also, for young Labour events, going to ensure in the future, notwithstanding what the review says, that there will be no alcohol, and we will also make sure that a senior member of the party will be present at all those young Labour events to act as a clear presence from the party to ensure behaviours are appropriate. We are then going to set in place a comprehensive independent review of the whole party and its behaviours, designed to make sure that in all areas of our activity in the party, people can be sure that their safety is preserved. And to lead that review, we've been very pleased to bring on board a well-known leading senior barrister, and if you'll let me explain who this is. This is Ms. Maria Berryman, who is a senior barrister with great experience both in investigations of the order that we're setting in place, but also with a lot of experience in dealing with sexual assaults. I'm really pleased that Ms. Berryman has been open to taking up this role, and we look forward to cooperating with her to make this report as comprehensive as it must be. We're also making Ms. Berryman available to people who have allegations of harassment or abuse in previous events that may have taken place in the Labour Party. If there are such cases, and we've heard there may have been one raised yesterday, we wanted to be clear that we are open to hear about that, and we are open to take up any of those complaints in a serious and effective manner. We're also going to talk to everybody who was in Waihi at the camp to make sure that they are sufficiently supported as this process has developed. So both young Labour organisers, but also the other people that participated, we shall talk to them. I think we recognise that we gave to the young Labour leadership in that camp a lot of responsibility, and in fact events overtook that responsibility, and we have to be clear that they have been supported as they look at the outcome of this process. So can I say we're taking this extremely seriously. This is the most comprehensive review in this area that I think any political party will have put in place, and we will make this party a party that is absolutely safe for people of any age, of any sex, of any gender, of any orientation. Thank you.
Mr. Howard, are you going to step down?
I'm not intending to step down at all.
Have you offered your resignation?
I have not offered my resignation. I don't intend to. My job is to make sure that we deal with this in as effective a manner possible. I want this party to be a safe party where everybody can go to any event and be sure they will not be harassed or subjected to this sort of treatment. It is utterly unacceptable. Nobody else is stepping down.
What about Andrew Curtin?
Andrew Curtin is doing an excellent job. He recognises that on one or two of these issues he wasn't as quick off the mark as he should have been. But he's a first-class General Secretary who works extraordinarily hard. He's probably one of the most successful we've ever had. He absolutely has my confidence.
Is this the first incident of this nature that Labor has been aware of in the past?
I have been President for 4 years. I genuinely have never heard of a single incident of like this before.
Any underage drinking?
I have not attended those events other than as a speaker. I have never seen underage drinking myself. I cannot from here say there's never been that case, but it is certainly not a feature of the events that I go to regularly. And in fact, I regard this as an extraordinarily bad event in a party where normally people are reasonably courteous.
Prime Minister, you would have attended a number of Young Labor events both when you were an MP and part of Young Labor. Did you ever witness underage drinking or any behaviour of this nature?
I cannot hand on heart ruled out that this hasn't happened before. But that's why the party is taking steps now to ensure it never happens again.
Are you confident that none of your MPs were present at this particular camp during the night in question when there was underage drinking occurring?
We've already been open about the fact that there was an MP who was asleep at the time, who wasn't present during some of the harassment and abuse that has taken place. But was present generally at the camp. But we've been open about that.
Which MP?
We've already mentioned, I believe, that Liz Craig was there. She's been open about that. She had an early flight the next day, so was in bed at the time that this all occurred.
Was she witness to any drinking at that camp?
I cannot say when she went to bed, but she's been very clear about the fact that she wasn't present when the sexual abuse took place.
The parental consent forms that you gave to parents, did they mention that there would be alcohol at the camp?
Those were, just to be clear, this was an event that was organised by Young Labor. What the party has determined is it's not appropriate that burden of care and responsibility was left to a group of predominantly young people. So even though, yes, there were parental consent forms that obviously did not protect those young people nor their parents, that is why Young Labor will not be running those camps anymore.
With respect, Prime Minister, the question that I asked was, did those consent forms mention that there would be alcohol?
I did not see the consent forms.
Have you asked to see them since?
I'm sure the party, because we're undertaking a full investigation, will be seeking the consent forms and what was outlined to parents. That is, of course, appropriate that we see all of that information.
Have you spoken to any of the victims?
No, I haven't. Look, I certainly would like to be in a position to talk with them, but given there is now an investigation in place, I do need to make sure that is able to run its course before I do that.
Prime Minister, you said that Young Labor organised the event, but the handling of it subsequent to that has been abysmal, hasn't it? You've admitted that. So
absolutely.
why are their heads rolling?
From the very outset, I've absolutely outlined my view that we handled this very, very badly as a party. After these significant issues came to light and after the harm that was done to these young people. But the General Secretary himself has acknowledged there were failings in place. He is now very much a part of the party's work to fixing the issues and the failings that we recognise. We are bringing in independent advice and assistance to make sure we improve the way that we operate in the future so we create a safe environment. But ultimately, our focus as a party must be those young people, and that's our focus, rather than focusing simply on the future of individual employees.
This is the first significant scandal your government has faced, and you've dropped the ball in the very, very first time. Why would the public have confidence that you can cope with anything at all?
This is us taking ownership of the issue.
But you've dropped the ball.
This is us taking ownership of the issue. As you well know, I was informed of this issue on Monday. It is now Wednesday. We've established in that time someone who is able to independently work alongside the victims of this situation to make sure that we address their needs in the way we should have from the beginning, to put in place policies that make sure that we do not have this happen again, and to make sure we work with Young Labor, who are ultimately, we should never have left in this situation. We've moved as quickly as we could from the time that I was aware, but absolutely accept mistakes have been made. We're owning that.
Are you angry with your party for not telling you sooner than be, do you tell them?
Look, again, as I've said from the beginning, the most important thing for me are these young people. This is not about me and political management. It's about supporting the young people involved.
Was the decision not to tell you?
No, it wasn't. I do not.
Curtin said to me the words, it was a political decision not to tell you.
I accept that there has been strong advice also to the party that ultimately the circle of people who knew, in order to make sure we were protecting these young people, was kept small into the party leadership. And the most senior person in the Labour Party is the party president and the general secretary.
Obviously, the victims haven't been the centre though. This was swept under the rug.
No, it was handled badly. I do not believe there was ever intent to allow harm to be done. If you just don't mind me finishing a question, then I'll be happy to take yours. I absolutely believe the intent was never to allow harm to be done, but it was, because as I've said, we made mistakes.
Prime Minister, would you support a law making it mandatory for alleged sexual offending to be reported to police?
No, because ultimately the victim's view has to come first.
Prime Minister, were you aware of any drug use, including marijuana, at that camp?
No, the first I have heard of that was, I think, an allegation I saw in the last 20 minutes. There is now an investigation in place around the events of that camp, and we'll leave all of those matters to that. But no, I have not heard any of that.
Prime Minister, have you looked into any allegations that the offender was a relation of an MP?
No, not at all. I've never heard that till now. Obviously, this is the subject of a police investigation, so I need to make sure that we leave the police to do that job.
Are you personally aware of who that offender is, though?
No.
From the party knows.
I believe, yes, I believe so. I've only ever heard her first name. It's not someone I'm familiar with, nor do I understand that they are not a party member.
Prime Minister, you were critical of the last government all the time when their leaders were kept out of the loop of information. You were saying they're being protected. It's purely for that reason.
When did I do that?
Your party was critical of the party. You might not have been leader there, no offence. But, you know, now you're doing the same thing. You're now justifying you being out of the loop.
Not at all.
You were kept out of the loop so that you could be dealt with quietly.
Absolutely not. Leadership is taking ownership of the failings that have occurred. We are taking ownership of the fact that we let these young people down. Now we have a job to do to make sure it never happens again.
Are you satisfied that these young people knew that they could take a matter to police?
I can only anticipate that in asking whether or not they wish to take it further, that was the implication. But
wasn't made clear to them because they're young.
That's my understanding. But again, I don't want to rely on hearsay. We've put in place an investigation now to make sure that we're able to get to the bottom of that as well. Because certainly the option should have been made very clear, and the offer of support, if they chose to go to the police, should have been very clear as well. That should have been an option that absolutely was made available to them with appropriate support around them.
You said in your statement this afternoon that you've been carrying out your own inquiries over the past few days. Has that come up with anything different to what you've been told?
No, and that has been mostly in direct contact with the Labour Party, obviously because they were at the centre of working alongside those when the allegations were made. So that's meant in direct consultation with Andrew Curtin and also with the party president.
Do you anticipate any more consequences for the young Labour executives who went to bed or anything of the investigation?
No. Of course, we're undertaking an investigation, but responsibility here needs to sit with the Labour Party generally. That is why one of the steps that has been taken is setting out that Young Labour will not run summer camps again. They will be run by the party if and when we feel that is safe and appropriate to do so. Because these are young people. They were young people running the camp. I don't feel it's appropriate to put all of the blame on their shoulders when they themselves were very young and of course well-intentioned, but things went very, very wrong.
Were any of the supervisors involved in encouraging people to bring alcohol?
That, of course, all of the questions that are being asked around the exact details, I believe should and will come to light through the investigation that will be undertaken.
Was it responsible for your MP, Liz Craig, to go to bed when there were 16-year-olds around with access to alcohol?
There were other people, of course, present. I don't think it's fair to place all of the blame on someone who attended as a contributor to the camp wasn't ultimately an organiser. But as we're saying, it's not appropriate that we left it up to Young Labour to run this event.
Ms. Ardoon, you said they were young people. Why are there still photographs on your social website and the Labour's social websites showing the faces of these possible children who are victims of this? Why are they still on your website?
Of course, they were 16 plus.
And could be victims right here. Why are they still on your website?
Oh, look, I'm as I say, I'm happy to remove that down from my Instagram.
That's a bit of an oversight again, too, isn't it?
I'm happy to remove that from my Instagram. Of course, I want to ensure that there are protections in place for these young people. We need to make sure that we're, I have to say, it didn't occur to me that someone would troll through and try and identify anyone. That would never be my intent. My intent is to make sure that we look after these young people and respond appropriately. Of course, many photos were taken, so we'd need to make sure we trawled everyone to get those down.
Will you take these down?
I'm happy to do that immediately.
Media have been asked to blur those pictures, but they're still up on
I'll take
pages.
I'll take them down immediately, but of course I'm only one of many who had photos from that day.
Do Andrew Curtin's mistakes reflect a wider issue in the Labour Party to handle problems of a sexual nature?
Oh, well, as has been raised by the party president, of course we've seen a historic allegation raised in recent days, and this one. These are the ones that I'm familiar with, but I think what we're seeing here is we have an issue that we're not willing to accept in the Labour Party. We need to put in place protections to make sure it doesn't happen again. And make sure that we can ensure that other people who participate feel it's a safe environment. I can't speak to whether or not this has happened on repeat occasions. I just can't. But I need to make sure that we have confidence going forward that it won't.
Are any of the supervisors that were at the camp employed by the Labour Party or by ministerial services?
I can't speak to the individual attendance of everyone there. As I've said before, I arrived before everyone else arrived very early on. And so I can't say who was individually in attendance on that weekend.
But have you sought assurances to see who those supervisors were?
I understand that some of them were predominantly members of Young Labour. All right, any other questions on any other subject matter?
Yeah, what's New Zealand's response to the diplomacy tension going on between the UK and Russia over Boys Knee?
Of course, we've already issued our severe condemnation of what has happened in the UK. We share the UK's concerns of the use of a nerve agent that is banned internationally, and we've used an international platform to speak out against it.
Were you aware of the incident involving an ex-KGB agent who had an apparent attempt on his life in New Zealand?
No, and that was a number of years ago, but I've now sought advice from the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet on that particular case in question.
And are you concerned that New Zealand is not exempt from these sort of attacks, and are you aware of the SIS unit?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Are you concerned that New Zealand is could not be exempt from these attacks?
Oh, well, that's why, of course, I need to seek further information about that case in question.
Another high-profile sacking at the White House. Is Rex Tillerson a loss, and how will that affect New Zealand's relations?
It is fair to say that we had the opportunity to build a relationship with Rex Tillerson. He obviously was in attendance at some of the recent meetings we engaged in. But ultimately, our role is to make sure that we build a positive relationship with whoever is the most senior diplomat in the United States.
Do you feel that could derail the North Korea talks, the planned talks with Trump, given that Tillerson's gone?
Certainly, you would have to hope that the changing in that role, the loss of Rex Tillerson, doesn't undermine the talks and dialogue that I'm sure the entire world would like to see happen between North Korea and the United States.
Would you have announced a cabinet reshuffle on Twitter before you told your colleagues?
I have to say, I would consider the use of Twitter to remove a cabinet colleague is unconventional, but ultimately it is up to every individual leader to choose how they communicate information. Some may see it as the modern press statement, possibly.
Excuse me, Prime Minister, I'm sorry to go back, but I just got a text saying that Liz Craig apparently has pictures on her Facebook page of people drinking at that Labour event. If she went to bed while people were drinking and you kids were present, is that okay with you?
I mentioned that my understanding was she wasn't present when the sexual assault took place. As I've said, when we undertake this investigation, we'll have more information over what occurred at the camp.
How long do you expect that investigation to take?
I haven't set out. I don't understand.
There is no timeline yet established. We have ascertain the person who's leading it today, to finalise that. We will have a timeline very quickly in mind. But it will be a matter of urgency.
Will you be transparent with it?
Yeah, I think we'll have to just make sure that we protect those who are involved. So we'll need to go through a bit of a process to make sure that we do that in the process. But of course the outcome will be a change in Labour policies and the way that we work. So we will need to absolutely be transparent about that. We also need to be clear there is a police investigation, so we do need to make sure that we allow that to be undertaken without be seen to interfere in it in any way.
Just to be clear, did Liz Craig know there was underage drinking going on at that camp?
As I've said, I wasn't present. I don't know at what time Ms Craig was present. I haven't had a chance to speak to her, but we've put in place an investigation so we can make sure we know about all of these issues.
There is a photo here, sorry, of Liz Craig with children who appear to be under 18 drinking with Cody's on the
Again,
table.
I can't verify whether or not she
photo.
Was or what age the individuals were. Regardless, we're taking responsibility for the fact that this event was not undertaken in a safe and responsible way. The Labour Party has to take responsibility for that. That's why this investigation is occurring. Anything on anything else? All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not sure when that happened, but